right, welcome to the show, Spring Trends on Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. My name is Emmanuel Ujadigele, EM Ujadigele on Twitter. You can follow us also on all our social media handles, and let's keep you up to speed with what's happening. Well, you already know what is happening in Osun State. The Court of Appeal has reinstated Governor Ademola Adeleke after he was sacked in January by the Osun State Governorship Elections Petition Tribunal. Well, let's take some videos. First, I'll show you the immediate reaction of the lawyers in court when that judgment was delivered. Well, it wasn't just the lawyers and party faithful who were excited in the court. Let's take a look at how Governor Ademola Adeleke reacted to that judgment by the Court of Appeal. And well, in the aftermath still of that judgment by the appeal court, Governor Ademola Adeleke was caught, was really caught, but he was found doing something at the mosque later in the evening. Let's go to that mosque and see what the governor was doing. Well, so those are the reactions. To that story. We'll take the tweets now. We'll take the comments now. I began by putting up my own tweet that was on that story on Friday. You know, people getting to know that the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja set aside the tribunal judgment sacking Governor Ademola Adeleke. It held that Governor Ademola Adeleke is the rightful winner of the Osun 2022 governorship election. Now, let's take the comments, starting with some congratulatory messages from party bigwigs in the PDP. We begin with Atiku Abubakar. Says, I'm delighted to extend my warmest congratulations to you, Governor Ademola Adeleke, on your well-deserved victory at the appeal court, which upheld your election as the governor of Osun State. Abubakar Bukola Saraki comes next. He says, congratulations to my dear brother and friend, Governor Ademola Adeleke, on the unanimous decision of the 3 judges of the appeal court to uphold your election as governor of Osun State. Kelvin Odan says, I prefer if Adeleke lost at the appeal court too, because based on precedent, the Supreme Court likes overruling appeal court judgment like SS2 versus SS3 tussle. Maybe that's just my amateur view. Anyway, congratulations to Osun State people. I wish you win at Supreme Court too. And David O. Aderiokun says, yesterday's ruling of the Federal Court of Appeal, that's Friday, affirmed the people's mandate with Governor Ademola Adeleke in Osun State. Congratulations, Your Excellency Imole. I have the confidence that we will recover the mandate of the people of Ogun State and Ogun Central Senatorial District sooner rather than later. Sports Dokita says, confirmed. Governor of Osun State Senator Ademola Adeleke remains governor of the state. Appeal court rules in his favor. Since he's been governor, he's always been in the news for the right reasons. I pray he continues. Congratulations to the great people of Osun State. Emperor Simeon says, at this juncture, I appeal to Boyega Oyetola to accept the will of God and the will of Osun people. He should do the honorable thing of abandoning this case and not push it further to the Supreme Court. It is more than clear that Adeleke and PDP is the choice of Osun people. Well, former Governor Oyetola is well within his rights, his legal right, personal right, to pursue the case to the Supreme Court. And you've just heard his aide, Ismail Omekpidon, saying that they will push the case up to the Supreme Court. Ifeoluwa Malik says, just an appeal court judgment. Come and see jubilations and happiness on people's faces in Osun State. That's it. When good people win, a lot of people are happy. Bayo Ononuga, who has recently been in the news for tweeting some stuff, says, never trust any news on social media. A great lesson today on Osun election tussle was that the bulk of the news being shared was incoherent and fake. People didn't wait for final verdict by the appeal court. All the hasty purveyors finally had eggs on their faces, including Femi Fani-Kayode. He was one of those who tweeted that the appeal court had ruled in favor of former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola, and all of them began deleting those tweets when the real judgment came out. This again shows that you need to pause and verify and confirm information before sharing or amplifying. On Facebook, Ibiyemi Oluwaseyi Said says, Ede FC versus Iragbiji FC since 6 months, 1-1, penalty loading. The penalty will be taking place at the Supreme Court. Adekunle, the Prophets and aides to former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola, says, the promise of Almighty Allah will come to pass soon on my principle. Adekunle, the Prof there. Now let's look at the statement that was issued by Ismail Omipidon, who we've just had on the show in the aftermath of that ruling. It says, immediate past governor of Osun Adegboyega Oyetola has appealed to members and supporters of the APC to remain calm and not to be discouraged over the outcome of Friday's appeal, saying his abiding faith in God to reclaim his mandate remains undoubted. Now, however, from the snippet we're getting, we believe we have a potential grounds to approach the Supreme Court. Our belief in the judiciary remains unshaken, just as my abiding faith in God's promise regarding the reclaim of my mandate remains undoubted. But that was the position, and that means that former Governor Adegboyega Oyetola will be heading to the Supreme Court. David Olufunso Fagbongbe says, it is beyond a miscarriage of justice. It's actually an abortion of justice. It cannot stand the test of time. And Coker Johnson said, for now and pending the determination of the case by Supreme Court, based on decision of Court of Appeal in respect of Osun Guba tussle on Friday, it will continue to be a reference point for all the lawyers that are currently handling election petition tribunal matters across all the 36 states and FCT, that the information on the BVAS machine being primary source is the primary data, and while transmitted information from the BVAS machine itself to backend server secondary source are the secondary data. And whenever the information on the backend server secondary source appears to be controversial, information on the BVAS machine, which is primary source, shall be authentic. It's not a matter of law, but common sense. And the last comment is from Honorable Jimo Abayomi. He gives a sort of a conclusion, a summary of the case. Says, number one, fact from the appeal court, Governor Ademola Adeleke did not forge any certificate. 2, Oyetola and APC did not prove any overvoting. 3, Oyetola's witness is not an expert and his testimony barren. 4, a fine of 500,000 naira has been mandated on Oyetola for payment in favor of the appellant. Finally, the election of July 16th stands and remains valid. Therefore, Senator Ademola Adeleke is the rightful governor of Osun State. All the 3 judges are in unison. Well, that's the last comment on that story. Now let's move over from the political scene to law enforcement. And now we'll start with the NDLA, the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency. Yesterday, Femi Babafemi, who is the spokesperson of the NDLA, put out a tweet. And let's check out that tweet that Femi put on the screen. He was talking about some arrests, some discovery made by the NDLA. And according to him, it says, you would take any of these to be packs of air fresheners and black soap, and indeed the third video as sandals, but they are mere covers for cocaine and meth, as discovered by NDLA Nigeria men the past week. Details in our statement at noon. So now let's look at those videos. Let's take the first video to see what happened and how you would think that this is a pack of air freshener, but what you have inside will shock you. Well, if you think that that was quite ingenious or disingenuous, I have another shocker for you. Let's look at the second video released by the NDLEA yesterday. Professor Bujas. Well, apart from the sandals and the, what's it called, the air freshener now, you can see that even in the handles of bags, men, I mean, Nigerians are, you may want to call them geniuses, but I don't think this is genius. That's maybe evil genius. Let's look at the comments now on Twitter. We begin with Online Awale. It says, nah, the imagination of these guys is on another level. This is like number 2 on my list. Number 1 was that of the guys who hid coke inside engine. The guys who hid cocaine inside the engine of a car. Henry John says, frankly speaking, it seems to me that only NDLEA Nigeria at NDLEA is the organization or agencies of the government. Other agencies have not given proof of their efficiency. God bless NDLEA Nigeria. Olatunji Olalekon says, bad eggs within Nigeria have bends and they are not ready to change from this narcotics business, but NDLEA personnel is equal to the task. My suggestion is that the federal government should upgrade their salaries to be equal to CBN staff with additional benefits. Kudos NDLEA. Well, good suggestion there. Ada AM says, thank God, thank you NDLEA. Enemies of Nigeria shall always fail. Rotimi G says, these are the main reasons the people who hate this country don't want us to end the import economy. Majority of it is a cover for drug smuggling. Kudos to the NDLEA. Printing says, see how people are desperate in making money in illegal ways. I will continue protecting the good image of this great nation, Nigeria. I wouldn't be amongst the spoilers. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Ihunaya Chikama says, wow, you guys are trying and upping your games in order to counter those criminals. Kudos. One of these days I will join you to fight them. And Lance says, sometimes I can't understand the level of desperation of some Nigerians. They have destroyed the name of the country abroad. What kind of punishment can deter these animals from drug trafficking? Maybe capital punishment will, because they just won't stop. Bolaji Olatunde says, ingenious. Still none as good as the ones that stuffed the merchandise in tubers of yams. That one is still the leader in the race to win Nigeria's smartest drug smuggler. I'm sure you remember that video. We played it for you here on the show where people found a way to insert drugs into tubers of yam. I still cannot till today, understand how they were able to pull that off. A Lion of Babylon says, sir, there's nothing you can tell me. It's either your men are using jars or some kind of microscopic glass to catch these criminals. But anyways, kudos and more grace to your able. Well, that's where we end that story on the NDLEA. Aside from that, let's take you to the political scene again. If you've been on Twitter for some time, I've been hearing 25% in FCT and all of that. It's because there's some argument going on by both professional lawyers and roadside lawyers that, for you to be declared president, you have to win 25% in Abuja. All of these are permutations. But let's look at what the Constitution does say. Let's take a look at this, the section of the Constitution that talks about that. Section 134 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic, 1999, says, a candidate for an election to the office of president shall be deemed to have been duly elected where there being only 2 candidates for the election. A, he has a majority of votes cast at the election, and B, he has not less than 1/4 of the votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. A candidate for an election to the, that's subsection 2 now, a candidate to the office of election, for election to the office of president shall be deemed to have been duly elected where there being more than 2 candidates for the election. 1A, he has the highest number of votes cast at the election, and B, he has not less than 1/4 of the vote cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Well, so let's see reactions to that story, to that provision of the law. Dr. Umaru kickstarts this story, says the way Nigerian politicians bend laws to break it is interesting. Now Nigeria has 37 states, not 36 states, simply because they want to bend it to favor a certain candidate who couldn't get 25% in FCT. Kingsley, she says, it is the prerogative of the judges to interpret law, not the politicians. If the law is bent, it is the judges and court systems that bent it, not the politician. Everyone wants to win his case, but the onus is on the court to be true, fair, and upright to all parties and society. Eddie Young has a comment. So if a candidate doesn't get 25% of votes in the FCT election, must be done 100 times until the candidate with the most popular votes gets 25% in FCT. Are we saying the people in FCT are more Nigerian than the people in Lagos or Kano? The whole argument is complete nonsense. All right, so move on to Ali G now. Says, does this mean that the candidate that gets 100% of the vote in 36 states of the Federation but fails to get 25% in FCT will not be deemed to have met the requirements to be declared president? Some very interesting questions. Abdul says, I think you need to clarify this 25% of a thing. So as Bat has the highest number of votes and failed the 25% requirement in FCT, so what should happen? A rerun or the runner-up should be declared president, should be declared winner? Twitter headmaster says, I had a convo with an ex-follower about the 25% in Abuja on the 28th of February 2023. I claimed that Tinubu did not get the required vote to be declared president. The guy claimed there is no special status on FCT. Today it is trending, and he unfollowed me because of that. We'll move on to King Simba. It says, quick question. Which of the candidates got 25% in 24 states? Does 25% in the FCT supersede 25% in 24 states? I.e., if someone gets 25% in 24 states but doesn't get 25% in the FCT, does the Constitution recognize only the one with 25% in the FCT or without 25% in 24 states? These are questions that will be answered by the court. Sumo True Thought says the Constitution said you must have 25% in 24 states across the Federation and 25% in the FCT. Going by the letter and spirit of the provision in the Constitution, the seat of power, which is FCT, must have a level of acceptability, that is the 25%. Charles Note says, those who wrote these are actually not stupid. They just didn't know that a day will come and someone will be popular enough to have 25% in most states organically and fail to have 25% in FCT. Technically, if you're popular enough to have it in other states, having it in FCT should be easy. And Emmanuel Elugbaju says, if expressed literally, it means 25% in FCT is compulsory, which makes an argument of if you have the highest popular vote, 25% in a 36 state and lose the FCT, does that mean you did not win the election? Interpretation of the law is not hard, but when it determines who becomes the president of a country, it gets complicated. Different sides of a coin. I'm wondering why it was never debated before the election. Well, on that note, to end the show this morning, it will be interesting going forward to see how that clause or that provision of the Constitution is interpreted when the litigation proper begins in the presidential election. My name is Emmanuel Ojadigele. Thank you so much for starting your week with us. I'll see you tomorrow on the Tuesday edition of the show. Do stay safe and remember to be on the right side of the law as you go about your business.